has
Back to Best Way tonight. Again, we have a great lecture for you tonight. It's on fruits and vegetables, right? Everybody's favorite subject. But I wanted to just share with you, there's so much meat to this lecture, and we only have 15 minutes. So I'm going to skim a little bit on some of the data and give you a little bit more on some of the practical information for you to be able to take home and to use. And then I will add, please feel free to join our Facebook group as I add some more of that data so that you can see a lot more of the whys between what we do and why we are encouraging you to eat more fruits and vegetables. So let's just jump right in and look at some of the data. Everybody knows, right? You've heard how many times it's good to eat fruits and vegetables. We need to eat more fruits and vegetables. There was a large population study that was done, Adventist Health Study 1 and 2. This population was looked at for many reasons, but one in particular because the population of Adventists tend to have a large number of people that eat plant-based in some way or the other. So you get this wide variety, large number of people that eat non-vegetarian, that eat vegetarian, that eat semi-vegetarian, and that eat complete vegetarian. And so you get this really beautiful way to be able to look at a lot of the data of what happens as people change their lifestyle. So just to give you an example, this is the percentage of people who eat different ways in the study. By percentage, non-vegetarian, it's about 43%. Semi-vegetarian means that they're eating mostly a plant-based diet, but they're still eating beef and chicken, etc. Pesco-vegetarian just means you eat fish. Also, that's the main source of animal protein. Lacto-ovo means there's no animal products except for dairy and eggs. And then vegan, or actually what we would call nowadays completely plant-based, which means that there's no animal products whatsoever. So this is just a distribution in general of those that you were looking at. When we looked at those who eat more and more plant-based, and you look at the prevalence of diabetes by the type of food that people are eating, this is huge. If you look at the non-vegetarians as compared to those that are completely plant-based, there's almost an 80% reduction in the risk of diabetes as compared, again, to that non-vegetarian group. That is huge. And even when you look at just the lacto-ovo vegetarians, I mean, this is not an insignificant data, especially because we are recognizing that diabetes is one of the biggest risk factors for for the things that will kill us sooner or will cause us to have some of the highest health risks. Look at blood pressure also. Same thing again. Look at that data, right? Look at the non-vegetarian and the prevalence of as someone becomes more and more plant-based, even when they go from being lacto-vegetarian, meaning they have some dairy and eggs, to being completely plant-based. The more and more fruits and vegetables that are put into a diet, there are vast differences even in the prevalence of high blood pressure, and not just high blood pressure, but some of the risk factors that come with that also. But you guys are here, you're like, okay, look, I'm here for a weight. This is not a stroke lecture. It's not a diabetes lecture. What about weight? Does it make a difference? And what again we find is that when people have an increased amount of plant foods, that's the basis of these fruits and vegetables, and not just fruits and vegetables, but this is also legumes and whole grains. Those that are plant-based tend to be more likely to eat whole grains rather than refined grains. You will find again that their BMI, their body mass index, it is almost, it's more difficult to find those who are in the overweight category among those that are more and more plant-based, okay? So this just gives you, in fact, only those that were completely plant-based, you would find them in the normal weight category. What does this mean for us practically as we're looking at this? The way that we eat will also change the way that we die and how and when we die. Again, those that are more plant-based, you're going to have a decrease even by the risk of dying even by 20%, right? Why does this make a difference to us? Let's look at a couple of other trials. One of my favorite trials to go back and look at, if you ever hear about the EPIC trial, their European Prospective Investigation into Cancer and Nutrition, there's so much data that comes out of this. One of the things that they found, this is over 300,000 people. You've got 8 different European countries. These people the people that they were looking at had not previously had heart attacks or strokes. You have a long follow-up over a period of time. You account for factors such as smoking, alcohol, exercise, and weight. And when you account for these things, one of the things that they found is this. When you look at this chart, across the top, you'll see a few different things. This is the amount of fruits and vegetables that people are eating, servings of fruits and vegetables that they're getting per day. Less than 3, 3 to 4 servings, 5 to 7 servings, or greater than 8 servings. Okay, and then you have the number that looks at how many people are in the category of people that eat this amount of the fruits and vegetables. But the really key thing that you want to look at is this. And again, average age here you're talking about in their 50s, and BMIs, these are actually, those are in the slightly overweight range. Look at this right here. I mean, look at the significance of heart disease for those who have the least amount of vegetables as compared to those who have the highest amount of vegetables. I mean, you're going from 506 heart disease deaths, right, compared to 269. Very simple, very straightforward, and again, it just helps you understand that, look, there is something about these fruits and vegetables that makes a difference in the way our bodies function. Again, looking at the number of servings of fruits and vegetables per day, those that will again die from the risk of heart attacks, the highest category as compared to those in the lowest category, 25% risk reduction from deaths that actually come from heart attacks. So if you're going to have a heart attack and the risk of you actually dying from that heart attack, just simply adding a daily serving of fruits and vegetables to you, it significantly decreases that. I mean, look at that difference. It makes that difference. Just adding a few more servings of fruits and vegetables will make a difference in that. What about colorectal cancer, which we're finding on the rise? I'll tell you, interestingly, I just had a discussion with a friend of ours a colleague of mine who I'd known for a long time, who is dying from colorectal cancer. It is not, for those who have suffered from it, it is a very, very serious and difficult disease. But one of the things that you're looking at a population that is of people, and they're based, all these different groups you're looking at increasing amounts of fruits and vegetables. This is the amount of servings that they take. So for every 1,000 calories that a person takes, they're eating either 1.5 in this group servings of fruits and vegetables, all the way up to 5.8 servings of fruits and vegetables. So roughly about 5 to 6 servings of fruits and vegetables in the highest group, okay? As you look at that, now we look at colorectal cancer intake. And when you compare fruits in fruit intake to those due to the risk of colon cancer, those with the highest fruit intake, right in this range right here, have about a 15% reduction in the risk of colorectal cancer. Again, if we were to give a cancer therapy out there that reduced the risk by that much, you would have people running to their doctors to get this therapy. And this is something you don't have to run to your doctor for. You run to the grocery store and can accomplish the same thing. We're looking at vegetable intake. When you look at vegetable intake, the significance in that risk of reduction in colorectal cancer is even higher than with the fruit. And again, the combination of both has an even better response. Again, a 30% decrease in in the risk of colorectal cancer. Okay. What about looking at people who have the colorectal cancer in a lower risk population? Okay, these are those that we said tend to live a little bit healthier. They're part of those in the blue zones. If you've read the blue zones or heard about the blue zones, these are people that tend to live longer over a period of time. Seventh-day Adventists, they looked at Seventh-day Adventists in California. That's where they found the largest concentration of Seventh-day Adventists. And again, you're looking at these people because you can get a very wide picture of the type of nutrition across the board in just one group of people. Looking at beef consumption. Someone who was a vegetarian was someone who was defined as never eating beef. Semi-vegetarian meant that they had beef at least once a month, but less than once a week. And non-vegetarian were those who had beef at greater than 1 time a week. Okay, when you look again at this, right? So these are those that don't ever use beef as compared to those that were using it greater than 1 time a week, and the risk of colon cancer went up by 85%. I mean, that again, it's huge difference in these risk factors. So people ask the question, maybe it's the protein, maybe they're just getting too much protein, and that's where the problem is. Actually, it's not. When we look at colon cancer by the amount of legumes that are eaten, so legumes are your beans, peas, and lentils. If you increase that from just not even necessarily every day, but from less than 1 time a week to greater than 3 times a week in the consumption of legumes, what they found again was that there was a 50% risk reduction again in the prevalence of colon cancer for those who are consuming those beans, right? Your beans that people love so much. There's also, in this study, they looked at fruits and vegetable intake and the prevalence of squamous cell cancer of the esophagus. And again, over and over again, you're just finding a significant reduction in the risk of these cancers. What about stroke? How many of us have either suffered a stroke or have known someone who's been debilitated severely from stroke? This is from the Framingham study. You've got 832 men ages 45 to 65. These people did not have cardiovascular disease, which includes stroke, at the beginning of the study. Over 20 years of follow-up, one of the things what they found is that the risk of developing a stroke, when you compare those who have the highest, these are the two groups that are the highest in the fruit and vegetable intake, and I'll explain these two categories in a second. When you look at these two as compared to those that take the least amount of servings of fruits and vegetables, what you notice is that the rate of developing stroke was twice as great for the group that ate the fewest fruits and vegetables as compared to those that ate the most. One thing that you can be glad for, you're like, do I need to eat 19 servings of vegetables and fruits in a day? I can't even get 3 or 4 in a day. No. One of the beauties of this is you found that the factor was attenuated around 6 to 7, and in some other studies it's about around 8 to 9, depending on what risk factor or complication you're looking for. All right. The most important thing that we want to look at in this lecture is actually how do we practically apply and look at the fruits and vegetables. I did want to actually just share with you a more recent look at both the nurses' health study and the men's professional health study. In this, one thing that they did find was that if somebody was genetically predisposed, you say, look, I got passed some genes from my parents that predisposed me to heavier weight, or maybe I pass some genes onto my children that make them more prone to gaining weight genetically. One of the neat things that they looked in this was that when a person increased their fruit and vegetable intake, they were able to actually mitigate or decrease their risk of developing obesity or becoming overweight just by increasing the amount of fruits and vegetables that they actually consumed. All right, let's look at this practically. If we're looking at potatoes, okay, how do I eat my fruits and vegetables? Does it matter? We're looking at baking a potato compared with fries, compared with chips. And this is frying with oil. We're not talking about air frying here. Frying with oil, typical fries that you get at the grocery store, etc., packaged in the bag or at a fast food restaurant. Calories significantly increase the more you process, the longer it's heated, the smaller the particle sizes are, okay? Significant increase in the number of calories. And when you are trying to lose weight, it makes a big difference. I don't know too many people that can eat 3 or 4 baked potatoes, but they can eat 3 or 4, the equivalent of 3 or 4 baked potatoes when they start to eat it as fries and as chips. But the other thing that's important to understand also in this is that look at what happens to some of the vitamins that are not as heat stable. You start to reduce and completely eliminate the amount of vitamin C that are actually in potatoes, which are a good source of vitamin C. Some things actually do increase a little bit, and mainly that's because the water content has gone down, so you have a higher concentration of the potato itself, and then also just because you do cook, you do get an increase in certain things. But again, as you process them more, there's more fat, and there's more sodium in these. So again, looking at the potato, the best way to be able to eat the highest nutrient density you're going to get from a potato is going to come when it's baked or boiled, rather than frying it and adding a lot more of unwanted calories. How can we eat that potato in a way that is healthy? My encouragement to you is adding things. Take that baked potato, add chili beans that you make, and add broccoli, add vegetables to it. Many people don't eat baked potatoes that look like this. This is not the way baked potatoes looked when I was growing up. They were mostly yellow and white with cheese and sour cream on it. The other thing that we want to look at is looking at different types of vegetables, the colors of vegetables, okay? When you're looking at bell peppers that are green versus bell peppers that are red, the more ripened that they are. I learned in gardening over the last year that you can take those green bell peppers, you let them ripen a little bit more, you get their red bell peppers. Beautiful things that we learn as we're gardening. But one of the things that we recognize is that the more ripened that it is, the higher in certain nutrients that we find that red bell pepper, versus vitamin K is higher when it's more in the green stage and in the green leafy vegetables, which we know. So again, what does that mean? Well, the practical takeaway from those is eat your vegetables in different colors. If you cannot tolerate a lot of variety in meals, our encouragement is to be able to um, eat some green and some yellow vegetables, that yellow, red, orange range. Eat some of those vegetables every day. Looking at really quickly at dark green leafy vegetables, again, the deeper the green color, look at this again, the deeper that green color in the vegetable, kale versus iceberg lettuce, look at the nutritional value when it comes to calcium, when it comes to potassium, vitamin C, and vitamins A and K, okay? So just keeping some of these things in mind is really important. If you are not someone who tends to enjoy a lot of vegetables, you're going to get your biggest bang for your buck when you eat the darker green ones. And you're asking yourself, I can't, Dr. Hillman, I can't eat it. How do I practically actually eat it? One thing that I found practically for my patients, if they take those like kale, darker green leafy vegetables, and just steam them until they're just a bright color, and then chop them up really fine and small and put them in their salads, they eat them better. Also, rubbing a fat on it, and a whole fat like an avocado, will actually soften up the kale also. That's another practical, easy way to be able to eat it, and eat it in a way that where you're not pouring oil or other things on it, to make them less healthy. Finally, also just looking at raw tomatoes, which are 95% water, right? As far as per weight, water, compared to taking a more processed ketchup, you're going to increase the amount of sodium significantly. And then you're going to decrease, because vitamin C is not as heat stable, you're going to decrease the amount of vitamin C that you have in that. Certain things are going to increase as you cook tomatoes. So many people say, hey, look, what can I do? Can I cook yes, you can go ahead and cook your tomatoes, but just understand that eating some of these vegetables raw and cooked really do help. So the same thing we find with carrots. Again, steaming is the best. If you can, cook until they're just tender. Eat some vegetables raw, eat some cooked. And the thing I would encourage you is, if you don't like vegetables to begin with, my recommendation is right now, just start eating them the way that you're going to eat it best. If you eat vegetables best when they're eaten raw, then eat them raw in a sandwich, put them in a soup, put them in a burrito, put them in add them to your beans, add them to your taco salad, however it is that you would eat them. If you find that you eat vegetables cooked better, then start eating them cooked, and then start to slowly progress to adding more raw vegetables to your diet. Again, you get benefits from both the cooked and the raw, but again, adding eating the variety of the colors also will give you increased benefit. And when it comes to weight, the more fruits and vegetables you get, the less likely you are to be able to gain the weight. And there are many reasons for that. I'll again share some of those articles with you later. But thank you again. And remember to eat those fruits and vegetables, okay? Especially on the way to losing weight.